Have you ever thought about how good it is of playing League of Legends on Igilo, right? So everyone wants to play at least once Igilo in their life. But, well, this is not really the case for this patch, because there's been a huge problem that anyone is complaining about. So guys, this is a video that is talking about the fact that 3 or even more people are currently playing ADC everywhere. So top laning is playing ADC, mid laner is playing ADC, ADC is playing ADC, support is playing ADC, everyone is playing ADC. Let's dive into why this is happening. So I think you remember when they reworked the ADC items and they actually changed the Infinity Edge and said, okay, we're gonna change Infinity Edge and we increase their damage, right? But that was not only that, right? They changed many other items such as Kraken and specifically again the statik. The problem with the statik, especially in solo lanes, is that it's such a strong item to rush, and once again they made a huge mistake of putting it back to 2k or 800 gold, right? Instead it was 3k 100 after the nerf of like the other patches, but now it's back to its original cost, maybe 100 gold more if I remember properly. But still, it's an insane rush item that actually guarantees that you have priority of your lane every time, especially if you have a champion that has a bit of a major shop, right? So for example, Kai'Sa Q, ZW, and all such things, right? And what is the problem, right? The problem, especially in solo lanes, is that static shouldn't be a thing. You can simply just shove the wave with one button and you're fine, you know, you're good to go. You can simply rotate them up and you will never be a problem of dives, so you will never be able to get dove, even though you're playing, you know, on a top lane or a mid lane, and you are actually able to free scale. No, doesn't matter the matchup, right? So this is the main problem that enemy top laners, enemy mid laners have to go against. And the main problem is not only that, but also the fact that static, after the changes, adds a thing that maybe some people don't really understand, which is the increase of movement speed. Before this wasn't a thing, it has a 7% movement speed increase. So if you add this up to the fleet footwork, for example, to the berserk greaves, right? So the movement speed of the boots plus actually the static being an early item, this makes you also not pickable at all. Counting also the fact that now all the ADCs are playing barrier, this makes you even more tankier than what you think, because movement speed as a statistic, it's not only to move faster, it's also a defensive layer. So you have to think that, you know, playing against the Zeri, playing against the Kai'Sa on the top side or mid lane, it's even more painful than before, because they are literally uncatchable, not only because they have a dash skill, but also because they have all these multipliers on the itemization. And so now we come to the Grubs part, right? That's really important to me, and I want to explain further on what is the problem, right? So, do you think that all the players that are playing ADC on top lane are especially top laners? I don't know if you get my point, but I'm 100% sure that most of the players that are playing Zeri topside, Kai'Sa mid lane, you know, all this kind of stuff, they aren't specifically mid laners. Most of them are ADCs that are burned out of playing bot side. Let me explain why. So, playing bot side, it's just painful now. And the reason why is because your support is never bot side. I've just played a game, and it was on Grandmasters, you know, it was like 800 LP-ish, so something like that, where my support was never bot side. 50 minutes in, so from 0 minutes, you know, even in the lane, he died once, and then he went top side. You never expect this kind of behavior from an Igilo player. You're like, okay, this guy should play well, right? But what if this is the gameplay that he should follow, you know? And the funny thing is that, yeah, he had to play like that because we had a Velvet. Since we had a Velvet, playing for topside objective was fairly better than playing for Drake. Meaning that my top laner, my support, you know, everyone just had to play for the Velvet. Doesn't matter what. So even if I decided to pick, let's suppose I play Jinx, right? And my champion needs peel, my champion needs that and that and that. The win condition, like the major win condition, remains the Grubs, which is pretty unfun to me. Like, it's unfun for everyone, to be honest, because, like, you know, if something is better than something else, then everyone will always try to draft a comp to actually play for that. And this is a huge problem, you know, especially for bot side, because no one is willing to play for bot side. Okay, so you have to play champions that are actually able to stay in lane solo. So what will be good to play bot lane solo, right? Something like Ziggs, something like Seraphim. But technically speaking, ADCs are not made to stay solo in lane. So what happens is simply that they get dove perma, they die 3 versus 1, especially when their support decides to roam. So this is the main problem. Grubs currently are insanely strong. If you manage to get 6 for whatever reason, especially with Velvet, you simply win the game. There's not much to say about that. It's just such an overtuned, objective, that having priority in top lane and having priority in mid lane and having your support roaming there, it's just, bread and butter things. So now supports just have another, how can I say it, thing, another thing that makes them say, okay, I'm just gonna leave my ADC, bot side, because I know that going top side wins me the game. I'm not doing anything wrong, right? Yeah, you're not doing anything wrong, but your ADC is pissing off, like, after playing a lot the game, people are getting pissed off of just playing ADC and staying there to make prio for yourself, because ADC right now is simply a macro role. You push the wave, you make your support rotate towards Grubs, and then you win the game. Whoever says the opposite just doesn't understand how ADC works, and you maybe can carry the game at 30-40 minutes if you play ADC on bot side, but the ones that will carry the game, like the ADC that are problematic, are always on the mid lane and top side because of level advantage and, the fact that you are insanely strong and you have more impact on the game, right? But ADC currently on bot side pushes the wave, makes the support rotate, and then you wait under tower praying that they don't dive you, right? This kind of playstyle is being really fun to me. And it's been like many years that I play the game, but yeah, this is the main point. No one is playing for Drakes. Game is too fast for that. You maybe reach eventually 3, but then they stop 1, right? But the Grubs are just something that should be either really tuned down, or simply they need to have some kind of different buff, because if you take 6 of them, there's no way to come back to the game, right? So many of you right now might think, well, if everyone is doing that, how do we counter that? Well, this might be way easier than what you think, because technically speaking, countering ADCs, it's in 2 ways, right? So you can counter ADCs by using 2 champions specifically, okay? The tank ones and the assassins. But let me dive in a bit deeper on the problem, right? Because if you think about it, you say, okay, the assassin should one-shot the ADC, and the tank should tank the ADC, and then it looks fine, right? Like you're saying, okay, I mean, this seems fair, but the problem is the laning phase, okay? Just like we said, ADCs on top and mid, they completely destroy assassins and tanks because they are not meant to be laning phasers, so they don't win the lane, they just try to rotate and get picks. So assassins, they need to get a lead, get something, but what if they get perma-pushed, right? They will never be able to rotate on a fight. What if they're like perma-low, right? They will never be able to snowball. So when you play assassin, you have to play it somewhere, and the only way to play it is to match against an ADC, meaning that you will always have a bad early. So you will never get to the point where you can kill the enemy ADC. Not only that, but currently the ADCs, they are like Zeri, so the guy just, dashes the wall. Kai'Sa uses ultimate and then he is fine. They have barrier, so they have so many defensive layers that even if you play assassin, you're just having a painful lane, you get out of lane, and then you're just screwed. There's not much to say about that. They simply have to make sure that ADCs will not be able to play on other lanes. Okay, and we will talk about that in the next and last point, right, where we talk about a bit about how we can fix that. And top laners, right, if you play a tank, what happens is you scale with the ADC, but the ADC has priority. So if you want to play for Grubs, enemy tank, let's suppose a Malphite, right, has no priority towards a Kai'Sa. And even if he has that, he has to play really, really well, and has to be some kind of luck combined to enemy jungler being ready, mid laner being prio. It's all about how much priority you have and how your team plays out. But if somehow the early lane goes badly, then, you know, enemy top laner or enemy mid laner as ADC, they will just close static, and from there on it's just complete destruction till you have some kind of coordination with Malphite ult and so on, right? So yeah, that's the main problem. We have a way to counter them, but the problem remains the same. The laning phase, it's not something that those kind of champions can match against the champions that they need to counter. So if you're playing, I don't know, Naafiri, and they play Corki mid lane, it's really hard to kill him, and Corki will have prio. I mean, this is pretty much what's generally speaking, okay, because it's not always like that. Maybe you pick a LeBlanc and you manage to get the prio somehow, but most of the games, I'm just saying on a consistent way, are ADC getting priority and enemy waiting for his moment, right? Like enemy top laner, bruiser, mage, all this kind of stuff, waiting for the good opening that almost never comes because it's objectively hard to get ADCs out of position. And now we go to the last point, which is the most important to me. How do we fix that? Like, how do you fix ADCs being insanely strong on other lanes? Well, I think it's easier than what we think. And the reason it's what we talked about today. So we for sure need to nerf the Grubs so that enemy support is not binded to actually rotate top lane every single time, so that you can also have the option to play for bot side. So yeah, I can decide to go for top lane, but I can also decide to play for Drake, and these should be equal. You know, it should be treated equally, but currently this is not like that. While you can take 6 Grubs and like 1 Herald on top side, you can only get maybe 2 Drakes, which is not enough as a trade-off. So we need a tune down on the Grubs specifically. I think Herald is fine, to be honest. It's not that much of a problem or a threat, and also because, you know, the Herald, it's a specific objective that can be good but can also be bad depending on how you use it. So it is pretty valuable and everything, but main problem is that now you can't decide. So nerfing Grubs is the first option, right? The second option will be to finally, and I will say finally, make sure that ADCs can scale with levels on bot side, because being 3 levels behind just because you're a bot laner, it's not fun at all. And to make sure that you are the same level as other laners, you need your support to permaroam and actually to avoid being dived many times in the game. Meaning that, again, the type of gameplay that you have, it's not fun, and you're simply, you know, farming minions till like minute 20-30 where you finally start maybe playing the game, right? So the levels are really important, and I think they should be treated like, okay, if I stay botsed with my support, I will get the same XP as other top laner and mid laner. Maybe slightly less, you know, like maybe slightly less. I'm not saying exactly 100%, but 19%, not half of that, because half of that just makes the game unplayable for ADCs on bot side at 100%. That's why people just say, okay, I'm just gonna go mid and top. This is, why do I have to suffer staying bot side? What's the reasoning, right? I don't get anything good on staying there, right? So again, that's another point. They should buff XP in bot side, but to actually fix, because okay, you can say I increased XP on bot side, but now ADC is overtuned also on bot side. They should nerf the items. So they nerf the item, they nerf the static, they nerf Infinity Edge, they can nerf all the items, but I want the normal XP on bot side. So that even if my support decides to play for top side, I am not somewhat behind in the game, XP wise. So I can actually play the game even if I got dove once, right? I'm not sad, I'm not like, okay, I got dove once and my game is over. I want to play and I can still get back to the game. Because that's the main problem of League if we talk about it, right? The games are too short, the enemy team makes a play and you're screwed. You can't do anything else. You just pray that your team wins the game. And I don't like that kind of style, right? I like to be happy about the fact that everyone in the game can actually carry the game. So if I want to play for top side, my top laner should be able to carry the game. My mid laner can carry the game. Win conditions are not necessarily damage dealers. That's one thing that sadly it's not anymore in the game. Like if you have a Belveth, the guy will 1v9. But if you have a Malphite, Malphite will never do 1v9. It will just, you know, make a good ultimate for the team, you know. But That's the main problem. I don't always think it should be like that. I think every role, every class should be able somewhat to contribute on winning the game. But currently, most of the times, it's not like that, especially for bot side, you know, ADC specifically. Support instead has an insane impact on what's happening on the map. Mid laners can't do anything unless they play specific meta, and this is not fun. I have to be honest. Like, if my mid laner wants to play Warwick mid lane, I would love that this guy could play Warwick mid lane, right? And not suffer from meta this much, because I've never seen such an hard meta. Okay, the meta is insanely hard, and I don't want it to be this hard that if you don't pick that, I just have to dodge the game. This makes the game fun for everyone, because you enter a lobby and you're like, oh, why don't you play Zeri? Why don't you play Kai'Sa? We're gonna lose if you don't do that, right? I want, you know, to live in a world where I can actually play what I want and not suffer too much from it, you know? You know what I mean? Like, you can play, I've seen many metas, you know, the Varus lethality on bot side, and if you don't play that, you know, you're screwed a bit in the laning phase, etc, 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 but you still could play the game, you know? You still could play the game and say, okay, if I am good, maybe I can make my champion work out, right? And guys, this is all for today. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really want to hear what you think about that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like or subscribe if you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Thanks a lot.